Hey everyone, Ashley Mayu here with the Daily Racing Forum. We're going to take a look at Saturday's nightcap at Santa Anita Park. Race number 10 is the Grade 3 Thunder Road at a mile on the turf course. This is our 4-year-olds and upward. A nice field has been assembled. We'll take a look at that field top to bottom and look at the morning line odds here. Interesting kind of race in my opinion with the number 8 Air Force Red 3-1 on the morning line. Speed, speed, speed is how it goes for him. Obviously, you kind of look at the way he's been able to kind of take fields gate to wire and is going to look to extend his win streak to 3 in a row after those 2 wins and ending up the year, I should say wrapping up the year in 2022. And then even other names such as Hit the Road, who's got a resume, going to look to get back on track. And then towards the outside of the starting gate, still 2 others in the field. The 10 Dark Shift, just making that second start since coming over from Great Britain, as well as the number 12 Cabo Spirit, who has been in Grade 1 and Grade 2 races in his last several efforts. So an interesting group here, a lot of horses to get through. And we'll just start off here with the horse on the rail, the number 1, Earl's Rock, who was winner last time out, had that win at Del Mar back in early December of 2022. Career best Beyer speed figure of a 90 and draws the inside in here. Looking at his races, I don't think he necessarily will be on the lead, even though he's got some early foot, but I don't think he'll be too far off the pace. He does have several efforts at a mile and a 16th. I just wonder, he is taking a step up in class. His only stakes, at least at the graded stakes level, was back at Keeneland in 2021 in that Grade 3 Transylvania, where she finished 5th behind Scarlet Sky. He did run okay in that race. I know kind of looking at the trip that he got, he did fade in there. I wonder if, considering that there was moisture in the turf course, if that's why he kind of flattened in there, but he was only beaten by 3 lengths. Flavien Prat board last time out, back aboard this Son of Fascinating Rock to his outside. The number 2, De Jour out of the Bob Baffert barn, took a chance last time out in the Grade 2 Mathis Mile at Santa Anita. And I say last time out, you have to go back to 2021 to find that race. It did not make it to the races last year as a 4-year-old, returns as a 5-year-old, and just making that second start since returning to the barn of Bob Baffert. You can see this horse had been in Billy Mott's barn in late 2021, but prior to that, was in Bob's barn. And the thing to note, I know you have to go very far into the past performances, but turf record, all 3 wins have been on the turf out of those 7 attempts. And this horse had some really nice turf races, actually won the Grade 2 American Turf and did it quite nicely. So it's an intriguing thing to look at him. Obviously, the morning line price is high. He does have really nice turf races, but to me, with that long layoff and looking at Umberto Rispoli, who's not usually a rider for the barn necessarily, I think it's kind of a wait and see approach with the number 2, De Jour. To the outside of that one, the 3, Anaconda out of the Joe Sharp barn. We'll take a replay look here from 2 starts early November at Laurel Park. The reason I picked this replay, this was at a mile distance, and Anaconda was able to sit off the pace and kind of make that late move. By no means do I think Anaconda looks much the best in here. He ends up getting the job done and does draw clear. I don't think he's the prettiest of movers in terms of his stride, but he was able to get the job done. More recently, they cut him back to 3/4 of a mile on the grass at Aqueduct in that Turf Sprint Championship where he finished second behind Nothing Better. I didn't love that performance. He did have that equal number of a 94 Beyer speed figure, which is what we saw in that effort at Laurel Park. But he is stretching back out. Does have a win. I just wonder, looking at his races, he's got a little bit of that good race, bad race syndrome, which I don't know if it's technically a diagnosis or something that I made up, but he does kind of have a little bit where, he'll have a win, then he'll hit the board, a win sort of situation. So we'll see what he can do fresh off that little bit of a freshening for the Joe Sharp barn. The number 4, Bob and Jackie, finished 5th last time out in the Grade 2 San Gabriel, going a mile and an 1/8. Biggest reservations about this 7-year-old. He is a 5-time winner, but he was winless in 2022. He's in some tough spots. I'll give him that. But he does not like to win on the Santa Anita turf course. He's 1 for 10. He has a bunch of second place finishes. I just don't know what to make of him. He's only making his second start since March. The price will certainly be right. I don't think he's going to take respect on the tote board, but another one, just making that second start off the layoff, I would take a wait and see approach. A long shot in here, the number 5, Kiss Today Goodbye. Another one that's been in some really tough spots, but primarily those tough races have been on the dirt. He's going to stay on the turf was on the turf last time out when he finished 7th in the Grade 2 Hernandez, and he's 0 for 5 on the turf course, which is something that I have huge reservations about. He hasn't won since all the way back in late 2020 when he did win the Grade 2 San Antonio, but for me, I'm not sure I see the turf form working out for him, especially in this spot. The 6, Iridio, the Argentinian bred, was 5th last time out in that Grade 2 Hernandez behind the winner, Air Force Red. Lane Way was second and next out winner. This is one that I suspect will be closing from off the pace. We've seen that time and time again. Is going to stretch back out, though, from 6.5 on the downhill back to that mile. A two-time winner here, in general, I should say, at the distance, but not at Santa Anita. Does not have a great turf record at Santa Anita, 0 for 5. Hector Barrios was aboard for his most recent win and is back aboard after taking the mount off last time. The number 7, There Goes Harvard. I probably have a lot of interest in this horse, maybe more than most would. I think There Goes Harvard's maybe a little bit of an oddball in here. He's coming out of some dirt races going longer. 2 starts back was a Grade 1 winner in the Gold Cup going 1.25 miles. But I wanted to take a look at his only turf race at Santa Anita. He's 1 for 1, undefeated on the turf course. You can see he's the number 6 with those turquoise silks. He gets to the outside here. And I know it's not a stakes race or anything of that nature, but I do like the way that he's kind of determined and trying to pull away from the field. And he just keeps to task in here. Does end up winning this race by over 2 lengths. I mentioned he'll go on to win the Gold Cup. And more recently at Del Mar, he didn't fare too well in the summer. They've given him time off. Part of me just thinks that he's got some early foot to him in the sense that he should be forwardly placed. He sort of reminds me of his stablemate Queen Goddess in that sense. And she's done very well at these distances on the West Coast as well. So for me, I think There Goes Harvard. Intriguing, getting back on the turf, is yet to finish worse than second on the grass and should be forwardly placed, which is where I would like to, kind of look for horses in these races. I don't want to be too far from off of it. Now, horse that will certainly be close to the pace is the number 8, Air Force Red, who, if he wants the lead in here, it's certainly his. You look at his performances, 5 for 8 locally on the Santa Anita turf course. Is going to try to make it 3 in a row, and it's just kind of been much the best on those last 2. Can get to the lead and gets very bold and determined, and just is able to kick on in those races. More recently at 6.5, 2 starts back, that was at 1 mile, and the connections do this a lot with him. Leonard Powell will have him, go stretch out to the mile, cut back to something that's shorter, whether it's 5, 6, 6.5, and they keep on toying with him, and it seems to work out very well for him. He's making the first start of his 5-year-old season. The number 9, Hit the Road. Very classy. He's a Grade 1 winner. He loves Santa Anita Park's turf course, but the concern would be with him is it's been a while since he's been to the winner's circle, and certainly his last 2 efforts have left a lot to be desired. Now, 2022 is certainly probably not the campaign that trainer Dan Blacker expected for this horse by any means. Raced him in the Pegasus World Cup in 2022 and it didn't fare well, and they gave him a ton of time off. He got that 1 start in right before the calendar year ended, and he didn't run well. Now, he did have blinkers on in that race, and I'm curious, would love to know if there was feedback from Frankie Dettori that thought the blinkers were a hindrance, because you see they come off. Kazushi Kimura is going to climb aboard this son of More Than Ready for the first time, and I personally think Kazushi's been riding very well since moving his tack out for the winter to California. So I am a little bit intrigued by Hit the Road. The number 10, Dark Shift. This is one that I had mentioned earlier. I'm just making that second start now here in North America. Finished pretty nicely last time out, I think, at Keeneland. Now, yes, this horse was only 5th, was at the back of the pack early on, tried to make up a ton of ground, and had a decent enough pace to do so. But I do think this horse was a little bothered early on in this race. So I'm curious to see what he'll do now second time out. You can see the workouts. This is a horse that's been shipped to California for this race, and not a bad thing to see Frankie Dettori booked to ride this one. And the barn does really well with this sort of a layoff or days in between starts with that 61 to 180 with a nice number to boast. Rounding out the field, the number 12, Cabo Spirit. Was recently raced in Grade 1 competition going longer, and you go down the page. This is going to be the first time that he's been at that mile distance in quite some time, but really good at the distance. 2 wins from 3 starts. The other one was a 3rd place finish. He also loves the Santa Anita Park turf course. Joe Bravo has been aboard. You go down the page. He was aboard for several of those wins last year, and 2 of them were graded stakes competition. Now, in terms of where I see him early on, I know he was mid-pack last time out, going longer. I do think he's going to be probably towards the back of the pack. He's towards the outside of the starting gate, and he'll be another one like several in here that will need a hotter pace to kind of get the job done. But I would say if you're playing the exotics, Cabo Spirit's one that you probably have to use, especially in the trifecta. But looking at this field and ultimately where I went to, was torn between two horses. The number 7, There Goes Harvard, and the 8, Air Force Red. Air Force Red, I think, is the speed in here, and certainly can, has the ability to take this field gate to wire. So I used him on top. But There Goes Harvard, I think he'll get a good trip just off the pace. He's going to be forwardly placed and close enough to it. And we'll see if he is able to kick on in the lane and try to make up some ground. But Air Force Red looks to be the controlling speed in here. Then I'll go to the 7, and then for my last two horses in here, the 9, Hit the Road. He has a ton of back class. They're bringing him back as a 6-year-old. I'm really curious to see if he just needed a couple of starts, and certainly I think he did need that start last time out. And then to round out the field, the number 3, Anaconda, who does have a win locally at Santa Anita and does have a win at the mile distance, but I think a couple other horses in here might be a bit tough for the number 3. So for me, Air Force Red, best of luck this Saturday.